I'm Matt Miller.
I'm Phil Toledano.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
All right, Phil.
That's actually great.
Yeah, no, that's very good. We should introduce him.
We're keeping it.
For the few people who don't know.
Which is everyone.
Well, no, because Mr. Enthusiast people will know.
That's the truth. And also, the thing is, Phil has large pockets of where he's known, but the pockets don't necessarily connect. It's kind of like a Venn diagram. He's got the watch people, he's got the art and photograph people, he's got the car people, and there is some overlap, right, Phil?
And then there's the new, recently growing medieval armor people.
Yeah, I would say it's like a Venn diagram where the circles don't meet each other.
That's right. They're just disassociated bubbles floating.
Yeah,
really.
Phil is a conceptual artist.
Yes,
in general,
for sure.
Yes,
but is photography? That's your main gig, right? That's what's made you kind
wealthy
of
beyond
famous.
measure. Well, to Hannah's point, I'm more of a conceptual artist, so everything I do, the idea determines the execution. So often it's never photography at all. Sometimes, if I'm going to get all into the weeds, which I'm happy to do immediately. Sometimes, at the moment, it's AI is what I'm working with.
All right, so I was familiar with him before as a photographer, and then I saw him work as a priest.
I've done very strong work as a priest.
Hannah, I mean, can we say, is it fair to say that he married you?
Yes, of
that
course.
kind of work,
Yeah, he is now an ordained minister, I think we can say.
Actually, to be honest, Matt,
Correct.
my main gig now is priest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I was late, to be honest. I was actually doing a bris because it's priest/moil.
I
mean, I
that.
get a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats.
So
he's a man of the cloth.
I'm excited to have you here, and I wanted to kick off with like a concept because I was thinking you're like a conceptual guy, and I heard you or I read you mention the idea of a forever car, and this is something that I think our listeners will have thought about a lot. Can you buy a car or a motorcycle or a watch or any of these things that people collect? Can you buy one to satisfy your needs kind of forever? And
like the One Ring?
Yes, to rule them all. And we got a great email from a listener, and I wanted to just quickly read the excerpt, and then I thought we could...
Was it asking me not to be on the show?
No, not about you, dude. About cars.
I thought it was about me, man.
So we got a cool email from a guy named Dan. He says, I recently bought my dream car, a manual 997 C4S, and I've been loving the experience. I've been a gearhead for as long as I could remember and a huge Porsche fanboy. The dream was always a 911, so I didn't even really consider any other option. In fact, the first time I drove any 911 was mine after winning the auction. Since I bought the 997, part of me feels like I have my forever car.
I mean, it's kind of amazing because really he was basically a virgin until marriage.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's pretty cool, though.
It is.
Not being a virgin until marriage, but this. Because, look, I also, when I first got into cars, it was a picture of a 911 that got me into it. And then I had always been in love until that point.
I guess I am so... I'm such a, I have such a pathologically small attention span. I think for me, it's forever curiosity, as miserable as that sounds. So there's not one thing that I would be happy with forever, other than, of course, my wife and child, in case she's listening.
Well, didn't you say when you first started dating your wife, like, this is forever?
That's what she says, man. I don't remember saying those words. I mean, I've always been so into the experience of everything. Like I've been lucky enough to have so many different cars, and none of those cars I've ever driven before. Like they just show up, and then you get in it. You're like, oh, this is fun, or oh, this is really miserable. But so I really love the experience of everything. So I don't think.
Dude, that's unusual. Hannah, that's unusual, right?
Buying
a car that you've never driven?
Really brave.
No, it is unusual.
But
hang on. Sorry to interrupt, Hannah, but it is unusual only because I like super weird stuff. So all the kind of stuff I like a lot of the time, like if you like Porsches or BMWs, you know someone, you see someone, there's a good chance maybe you'll get a chance to drive one. But the stuff I like is often so obscure that no one has one. Like I've just seen it in a video on YouTube.
It seems like the driving is not your primary motivating factor.
So is it like the art? When you buy a car,
there's something else that's attracting you to the vehicle, not how it's going to drive.
I guess I was very into the sort of Group B rally stuff, and I loved the history of those cars. I loved how kind of strange and awkward they looked, and I really loved how they drove. So I do love driving. I will say that driving is, I'm somehow less interested in driving now as I approach my dotage.
Oh.
As I enter my dotage.
But you still, so I noticed looking at some of the cars that you have and some of the cars
Let's
that you
talk
like.
specifics, though. List some of the cars so people know what we're talking about.
So I was thinking about the M1. You have a BMW M1, right?
Yeah.
And you have a Lancia
037.
Yes.
That thing.
And you also recently posted a pic, and I want to go through later on. Go through some of the pics you posted of a Gallardo, and all of these have this wedge shape.
I don't have that. Well,
right.
You're right. I do love that 70s Gandini Giugiaro kind of. You have to say his name like that by law. That kind of folded paper, concept car thing. The Citroën. Was it the Alfa Romeo Caribou, the Citroën Karin, which is an unfortunate name now. All those things are amazing shapes. So it's true. I kind of love that. The Gallardo, I just posted. I don't have one, but I just saw a picture of one, the first gen Gallardo, and I thought, wow, that has really a beautiful design. Particularly, it's so much nicer than contemporary Lamborghinis. And maybe it's because I'm just a geezer and I like old stuff, but it just aged beautifully, I think. In like a silver color. It's amazing.
And then the contrast to that is the Jag.
The Jag.
Yes.
I have a Jag XJ220.
Wow.
Which is a trouser changing car.
Which is a completely different animal.
It's also again, to your point, that's one you would normally never have the chance to drive. Like, you don't even see them around, obviously.
Well, yeah, most of the time they're not being driven because they're stuffed away in Lucerne or Lausanne or something.
But how many are there? There can't be that many.
279.
There you go.
But all the cars I've bought have been very, very low production.
Same with the M1. Like, you wouldn't have a chance to drive your neighbor's M1 because where are they?
The only reason I bought the M1 and when I bought that M1, that changed my entire collecting life, was because I went down to Florida. There was a dealer there who I was going down to look at a De Tomaso Mangusta. Which is a really beautiful Giugiaro design car. I
love them.
Yeah, and it could not. Yeah. And then I got in the car, and I have to say, it could not be a worse car to drive. You know where the headliner kind of meets the windscreen? That's where your cranium is. Like, the front of my head was basically touching the glass of the windscreen. And I was like, this can't be right. Is this normal? He was like, yeah, this is how it is. So I drove for about 5 minutes. I said, I can't buy this car, even though it's amazing to look at. And he had an M1 in the showroom. And even though I never had any interest in an M1, I thought, well, while I'm here, maybe I could have a quick go on this one. And I drove it, and it blew my mind. And I until then, I had previously collected Italian stuff from the 60s, late 60s and early 70s. And I sold everything, and I bought, I went through this kind of crazy frenzy of like Lancia Stratos, Lancia Delta S4, Peugeot T16, Mercedes Evo 2, Lancia 037. It's just this crazy, and I kept, and I'd have them for a few years, Lancia Stratos, and then I'd sell them and try and buy the next one. I mean, that's how I kind of afforded to get the next car.
There is no forever car for you, is essentially the answer to that.
The M1 is sounding to me like your forever car.
It has survived the purges. You're right,
Hannah.
It
survived.
It has. That's the only one that survived. And
the one time I ever saw you get, I don't want to say upset, touchy. We drove the M1 over to Dumbo in Brooklyn and from New Jersey, and we're shooting a bunch of photos and video of it. And at one point I asked if I could get into the trunk. And you just said flat out no.
I had
there was no joking or humor. For the first time ever.
But you wanted to get in the trunk of an M1?
Why? Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, why?
Cars should be fun. Let's explore the space. And it was a flat out just
You know what? You're so right.
It's funny. It was funny to me.
It's totally true. It's weird. Like, I had a total sense of humor shutdown. I remember I used to have a Iso Grifo, and I drove up to like the Hamptons or something for a weekend with the missus once. And we stopped and she bought some flowers and they were like dripping water and she put them in the back seat and I went all apoplectic. Like, oh, what are you doing? I went all mental and she just looked at me like she'd never met me before. And it was true. I don't know what happened to me. Like I went all crazy.
It's something switches.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because Phil, that is so not a side of yourself that you show very often.
I guess you're protective of the M1.
If at all.
Because it's true. Like, you know what? That's a very good question, Hannah. I guess because I feel like these things are so kind of. I have no sense of humor about cars. It could be possible.
Dude, you care. That's okay. You care.
Is it wrong to care, Matt?
No.
Thank you, Hannah. Why are you mocking? Why are you shaming me?
Men can care.
Yeah.
We have feelings.
Yeah. You're shaming me.
It was noted. That's what I'm saying.
So is that the one?
I found it very interesting. Actually.
Is that the one that, I mean, is that the car that is your forever car and everything else is just kind of like N+1? You always need to get something different, but the M1 is always going to stay with you.
Maybe. Yeah, you could be right because it's such a lovely car to drive.
Is it a V8? I don't know much about
It's a 6.
Is it an inline 6?
Yeah, it's a straight 6. I know nothing about how cars work. I mean, the fact that I even know how many cylinders is miraculous.
Well, you're in the right crowd.
I mean, ask Hannah. Like, Magnus is always mocking me for like knowing nothing. I mean, I remember I had a 246 Dino years ago, a Ferrari that I kept in the public garage down the street from under a cover, just casually. This is when they weren't worth very much. And I used to drive it. And I used to drive it around.
So brave.
But no one cared then. And I used to drive it around the city all the time. And then it stopped. Like in Midtown, just coasted to a stop. So my friend, I push it over the side of the road with some help of New Yorkers, and I call my friend, and he says, "Have you checked the spark plugs?" I go, "What do I want to check those for? Aren't those just for like starting the car?" and then there was this long silence. So yeah.
Classic. Well, but you know what? I think it's further to Hannah's point that it's not solely about driving these cars. Obviously, you're not going to buy one that you can't drive because your head's on the windscreen. But you're more interested in the shape, the feel, the character, the design.
No, it is. I mean, the driving is super, super important. It is. I mean, I've sold like the Mercedes Evo 2. I sold because I found the driving experience. Like, if you know that car, do you know that?
No.
It's like a Mercedes.
I'm going to Google it right now.
It's like a Mercedes from the 90s. It looks like an Eastern European taxi, but it's got flared arches and a big, massive wing, and it's kind of. It looks.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, "Oh my god, this car looks mental. It's going to be insane." And then it was just like driving an Eastern European taxi. Like, it wasn't really fun to drive, so I sold it. So I don't keep things that aren't fun to drive.
So it's an E-Class. It was the sort of E-Class on steroids that was so big in, I want to say the 80s, but I guess it's a 90s
Well, because
car.
they made it for DTM racing.
Nice.
It was a homologation car.
That's Deutsche Tourenmeisterschaft.
I didn't even know what that
That's
meant,
what
to be
DTM
honest.
is.
Yeah. Down to munch food.
Okay.
Well, Phil.
That's interesting. So you do care a lot about the driving, but like many of us, you just don't know a lot about the mechanics. I love the M1, and I wasn't sure if it was a V8 or an i6.
Because I've had so many weird cars that often don't work, I've kind of by default learned, like, okay, maybe this weird noise is why this could be this.
You
thing.
have an XJ220, which is famous for not being a V12, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's famous. I mean, it's kind of ironic because if it had been a V12, it wouldn't have been as fast.
Yeah, because it would have been heavier.
Way heavier.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of the 220 was to go 220 miles an hour, and with a V12, it was apparently like just a lead balloon.
But it also, I don't think it went 220 miles an hour.
No, it did.
Yeah?
I think it went like 217, Hannah.
It's a rounding error.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I'd have to Google it myself, and I'm sure that Matt's already on the case.
You're right.
I'm going to say 217, and
I'm going to look at it. You can continue to converse while I.
Here's something I want to know, Phil, which I think speaks to just what you do in watches and with your artwork too. What informs your and has developed your taste and your sensibility for the oddities of the world, and just it's not quirky for quirk's sake. there's real authenticity behind it, but you gravitate toward something that people can see in your watches, in the cars, and in the art. What is that, and what has informed that?
That's a very good question. I guess, well, there's a few things. One is, as my old ad boss used to say, I'm a pathological contrarian. So I have this urge to not have the same things other people have. It's like a specific form of snobbery. But the other thing is, I feel like there are so many beautiful things in the world that are orphans that people just don't pay attention to because they're busy being sucked into the gravitational pull of, I must have a Porsche, I must have an M3 or whatever it happens to be. And not that those things aren't lovely, but that gravitational pull is incredibly strong. And so, but my entire life, who I am, all my reflexes always gear towards, well, if that's what everyone else is looking at, let me look at this other direction, see what else is in the corner, kind of abandoned, but interesting. Because there is so much amazing stuff, just, cars, watches, history that people just forget about because we move so quickly. I'm much happier to go to a Cars and Coffee and see like a Toyota Sienna from Japan with the gull-wing doors than I am to see like a 250 short wheelbase, only because I've seen dozens of 250 short wheelbases, but a Sienna, that's cool. Like that means that person has really rooted around and like thought about things and said, this is interesting to me and gone against the grain. And I find that really interesting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. By the way, as an aside, did you work for an agency?
Yeah, I worked for a bunch of agencies.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I want to just do a little fact checking. Phil was correct. With the catalytic converter removed, the XJ220 reached a top speed of 217 miles an hour during testing at the Nardo test track in Italy. This made it the fastest production car from 1992 to 1993.
I mean, the thing about the 220 is that it's just astronomically amazing to look at. Like, but of all its contemporaries, I will die on the hill for this, whatever that phrase is, for this.
You'll
statement.
lay your hand in fire.
Yeah, that's right. I will. To say between, like, if you think about like the 220, the McLaren F1, the 959, the F40, all those kinds of cars. For me, the 220, if they all rolled up and you knew nothing about cars, you knew nothing about brands, the 220 is the most extraordinary one to look at because it's so radical in its proportions, in its shape, and all the other things are beautiful, but they're kind of incremental evolutionary designs, I think.
But you also have...
But I'm also super biased.
Yeah, well, no, not just that, but you have a specific taste, and I notice it more in your watches, or at least the watches that I see on Instagram. You like a really elegant, you like a kind of minimalist approach to things. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, yes and no, because
this doesn't have all the kind of wings and creases
but a lot of the 90s, I mean, look, I think the EB110 is really cool. Is a super in silver
Bugatti.
Yeah, that's a super cool car. The Super Sport with those little round circles on the. Yeah, I mean, it's just
really like, unique.
And it's also got such a kind of. It's, what's interesting about the EB110 when you look at it, it's incredibly aggressive in a way that no one does now because there's not much in the way of like vents and strakes and intakes. It just looks like it means business. Like it's the velvet fist in a way that, like, I feel like car design now, when they want to mean business, they just go to the supermarket and add like a bunch of intakes, and wings and strakes and canards.
Velvet
I feel like
fist.
we're going to call this episode the Velvet Fist.
I'm not sure if Velvet Fist is even allowed. Kids listen to this.
This is just it's a great way to design. If you think about like beautiful design that has a brutal, that is, it's kind of cloaked brutality.
Would you call the Toledano Chan watch a brutalist watch?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because it was inspired directly from a brutalist building, the Marcel Breuer building on 57th, I think it is. The window in particular. So, absolutely. I mean, yes. I'm a huge fan of looky here.
I've had, honestly, within the last week, multiple people have said to me, do you know Phil's watch and can I get one? And I slept on it and now I'm regretting it.
I think it's fascinating that your taste in watches, and I can see from the design of this carries through to your taste in cars in a way. Because this, I wouldn't think of it when I just look at the watch, but then I look at your car collection and I'm like, oh, I totally get that you love the Lancia like that.
It's interesting though, because if you all the things I collected before the car stuff was totally different, like a 246 Dino, 1960 Lancia Flaminia Sport Zagato, what else? Isogrifo. Like those are all beautiful curves and rounded shapes, and I mean really amazing. I guess you know what the thing I find really lovely about collecting is with watches and cars is that things that I previously thought were horrifying, like 70s watches, there's something like it's almost like a tumbler or a cog that kind of clicks within me, and then suddenly I look at them and go, oh, that thing's amazing. How could I not have seen that before? Like with 70s watches, that's what happened. Like I was always kind of, not interested in them. Or Gerald Genta stuff from the 90s. Like it all just seemed too much. And then suddenly it's like I understood it spontaneously.
Phil, what do you think of the Cubitus?
Oh, here's the thing. I blathered something about the Cubitus this morning on Instagram.
Can I read something back to you?
Yeah, yes.
When I look at the Cubitus, I see fear. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, because that's what I said this morning. Because look, here's the thing. Patek has not really done much of interest from a design standpoint, from my perspective, for decades. But the thing about the Cubitus is it's such an act of fear, because it's when you look at it, they've done the kind of superhero Marvel movie franchise model. So they've said, okay, the Nautilus was super popular, very successful. We're gonna create a new watch that dismembers parts of the Nautilus, glues them onto a vaguely new case shape. We're gonna have a name that sounds like Nautilus but is now Cubitus. So it's just like it's like Return of the Nautilus, Enter the Cubitus. You know what I mean? Like it's just a sequel. And I feel like for a company like Patek to do sequels, the fear internally, the weight, the burden of success internally must be utterly paralyzing. Like they must be unable to come up with an original thought because they're so oppressed by the weight of their own history and success. And it's sad.
We are talking, for those who aren't aware, about a watch by Patek Philippe.
Yes, we've transitioned.
It's a recent...
The line between watches and cars is very thin.
For sure. No, for sure. I just want to... maybe a lot of people will know, but I think it's also so new that a lot of people won't. Like, I thought you were saying something about cubitists, like an art movement,
right? It was a spin-off from Picasso. There was Cubists and the Cubitists who were like
But you're saying Cubitus, and I only know about this watch because Chris Rouser posted it on Instagram like a couple weeks ago as a new thing.
It's not an unattractive watch, it's fun.
No, I think it's a beautiful watch, frankly. And if you don't know the history or anything about watches, you might be like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it is massive. It's Gulliverian in bloody size. But yeah, it's a very nice watch, I'm sure. But it's just sad that,
What do you think about watch car maker collaborations? We were just sort of panning the Bentley Breitling partnership recently.
Those are
but they do, a lot of them do that, right? IWC right. And
I feel like
you don't have any cars that have a watch clock in them.
No, the watches, the clocks definitively don't work in whatever cars I have. I find them generally they're crimes against humanity. not to overstate things.
Let me ask you this: what you just described happening with the Cubitus, do you see something similar happening in the car world, where brands are producing vehicles and designs that are created more out of a place of fear rather than a bold originality?
Well, actually, I'd say Hyundai are not. They are doing amazing stuff.
Yes.
Simon Loseby, the head design geezer over there, is just cranking out the genius. Like, what's that? What's that concept car that now might be real? It was based on a pony car, a Giugiaro car from the 70s that they did a concept of, and now it was a high. There it is. It's so cool, man.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does look.
That's the business. I mean, here's an example, right? Remember when Lamborghini excreted out the Countach reissue?
Yes, you mean
Yeah.
the like from a couple years ago,
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Like, to me, what they could have done was said, okay, let's think about what the Countach meant, that what it represented. Like, it was such a radical, extraordinary alien from outer space. Let's do that again, but not reference the Countach at all. Just honor the spirit of how audacious that car was in 1972. And instead, they just kind of, like, pooed out some gas station body panels.
All right, I'm going to have to defend Lamborghini a little bit here. First of all, you know what Countach means?
Yeah, it means like wow or something, doesn't it?
Yes. In like some sort of rural
Sicilian
Italian
dialect.
Yeah, not Sicilian, because they're way up in Bologna. But
Okay.
and I also,
Industrial.
Yeah.
I guess I tend to like almost everything that Lamborghini makes, just because I love the design language. I love the big motor.
Actually, you know what I do love is the Sterato, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes,
Which
is a Huracan with
Yeah.
a 2-inch lift and knobby tires.
But I love that. Don't you think, Hannah? That's like the coolest.
I
modern
loved it.
Lamborghini.
I had so much fun driving it. I thought it was fun. I felt like they didn't overthink it. Like, they made it because it was fun. It doesn't make sense, It was cool, and they made it look good.
Yeah, it's amazing looking.
And it's
I need to
serendipitous
take
because it ends up working very well. Because guess what? I realized when I drove that car, you don't need a 400, 500, 600, 700 horsepower race car on the streets of America.
What
So-
horsepower is that?
I can't remember, but it's a big V10 engine, which is an amazing thing to have sitting behind you. And then you just don't need championship levels of grip on these streets. In fact, you need less to make it more fun. So when I'm sliding into an exit ramp in that thing and the knobby tires are slipping all over the place,
Do you
it's super
slide
fun.
into exit ramps?
Yeah.
Well, in that car, I did on accident.
Need more
right?
clearance.
I actually did a 360. This is early on in my car collecting career, like the mid 90s. I had a Porsche 964 C2, and this was a club sandwich of buffoonery. I downshifted on an off ramp in the rain.
Oh no.
Yeah, so all the weight just so all of a sudden I'm doing this like Baryshnikov pirouette off the off ramp, just like through a field, spinning like endlessly in slow motion. And I see this telephone pole coming towards me.
no.
I'm thinking, oh my god, I can't believe I hit the pole, and I stopped like a foot from the pole. I mean, it was, and I just sat there like listening to the ticking engine and the rain on the roof, going, oh my god, okay, note to self, like learn how to drive properly.
Yes, hilarious. Downshifting can take you by surprise, especially when the motor's in the back.
Yeah, on a curve.
Do you have something specific you want to do right now, Hannah?
I was just going to have to say, I don't know what car you're talking about from Hyundai, but probably the worst car I've ever seen on the street is the Ioniq 6.
Oh, you know what? No, I've come around to that.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. That is the ugliest car ever.
No. It's weird. I know it's weird, but
terrible.
in that Battleship Grey,
It's grotesque.
it is. But it's like, I don't know. Look, obviously something is wrong with me.
I agree with
it's
Hannah
not
on
cool.
this.
It's like its purpose. It's like barrel leg jeans. It's purposefully, and Phil, we've talked about this. It's purposefully ugly, but not in a cool way.
Wait, I'm wearing barrel leg
It's just
jeans
actually
right now.
ugly.
Hannah. Just
He
saying
is-
it. I'm wearing
I'm
barrel
glad,
leg.
I'm glad you're sitting.
How dare you?
I don't need to see those.
No, I feel like it's like this super high tech, like it's a futuristic banana in the best possible
Yeah,
way.
it reminds me of.
it's
It's like
like
if
a
somebody took the Mercedes
moldy banana.
CLS and made it even uglier.
I don't know. I was horrified by it, and then weirdly I've come around. So I may have had like a mental incident.
I mean, it is.
I think in your dotage, you are losing it.
Do you actually-
Because that car will never fit into your garage of beautiful, eccentric oddities. And then you have that rotten banana.
You know what
It
actually
doesn't
would be
work.
maybe why one car, if I lived in the right place, this could be the back end's a bit weird.
The back is the worst part. I can see appreciating it from the front three-quarter
The
view.
front three-quarters not bad, but the back,
I just
yeah.
cannot accept that car.
It has been rejected by Hannah.
It's rejected.
You know what I would say could be my forever car if I lived like in south of France would be a Citroën Le Dandy, which
Le
first of all has
Dandy.
the best the Dandy,
Oh,
which
I
has
see.
the.
Oh, well,
I mean, hello.
great. Love.
If that's not the best name in history, It's a convertible also.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of those
Phil,
full
why
stop.
are you not talking about the Lagonda?
I'm not a Citroen fan.
The Lagonda. What you?
Oh,
wait,
okay.
hang
So
on a minute.
Yeah,
Wait
no,
a minute.
I don't like them. I know it makes me like a weird car person because if you're a true car guy, apparently you have to appreciate
I love
the Citroen.
Citroen, man. I mean, they're so. This is what's so amazing about the French. They are so by the rules. Like everything in France is like, ah non, pas possible, not possible. But then simultaneously, they're deeply eccentric.
I don't.
Like the Citroen Ami. Do you reject that car?
Yes.
Get out.
I reject almost every French car, to be honest with you.
Do you know what it looks like?
Yes, I do.
So German.
The
Hannah,
only.
what do you say? Chime in. I saw a bunch of Citroen Ami when I was in France last week, and they're amazing.
Perfect. I have no problem with it.
It's
I
not a
give my
car.
blessing to that.
It's like
What? It has four wheels. You're inside.
It's like a motorcyclist giving the hand signal to somebody who's riding a Piaggio scooter. You just can't do that. This is an interesting mode of transportation. You know what this is? It's a mobility solution.
It's a
That's
Ross. It's a pimp my ride rascal.
Imagine if you got hit with that thing. You'd. Well,
I just think
if you got hit by it, it would be fine. But if you got hit in it, it would be a problem.
Yeah.
The only French car that I like is Renault Twingo.
I love the Twingo.
But I like the new one.
The new one's amazing.
I don't like the old ones because the old ones had the engine in the front like every other car in the world. And the new generation, not the concept, but the the ones they've been making since the 2010s, have an engine in the rear.
What about the Peugeot T16? You're going to say no to that?
I don't know. I don't know that one, but
You're out of the will, man.
I think they're cute. I'm all for it, especially. I mean, if the thing is, imagine it like this: if everybody had that car, would the world be a better place? And I think the answer is yes.
Are you talking about the Citroen Ami?
Sure.
Yeah, I
yes.
think you're right because think how you couldn't really have road rage if you're driving a Citroen Ami because you just look like a buffoon.
Yes.
Like what are you gonna like honk at you like like you're gonna cut some guy off in your Ami? I mean, I guess you could, but then he could push you over. Like
Exactly.
it's like a porter cabin, but in the best possible way.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to go through a number of the cars that you have posted about
Can we
lately.
please talk about the Lagonda?
You're right.
By the way, is this the same car? I think the other day I saw Magnus talking about how he might want one. He's like, am I crazy or do I want one? And I'm like, you're crazy, dude.
Phil's going to be enraged.
Okay, this enrages me because I've been singing the joys and praises of the Lagonda for years. And I was actually, funny enough, Hannah, I was talking to someone about the Lagonda just the other day. And he was talking about how it's really fun to drive. Like, it's not so floaty. Like, the engine's really invigorating. I think I saw one in Period. It was parked across the street from me as a kid, and I never forgot it, a white one. And it's just the most bonkers bit of design. The one thing that's a problem, this guy was saying they did an article, I guess, in Australia about them, and they had like the finest Lagonda available to humanity that had been to England, had its dash rebuilt because they've got these crazy capacitive touch dashes or whatever it is, and it still like kept breaking down, even though it was like the best example you could find.
Yeah, I think this tracks with your.
From it?
Yeah, because here's what I'm thinking. I have this fantasy in my head that I would sell all my cars and then I'd buy like a Bentley Arnage or a Bentley Continental T. It's like a version of you guys, but less cool.
I thought you had bought that. I saw it on Instagram. I thought you'd finally reached that stage.
I have reached that stage, but I haven't not everything you see on Instagram is true, Matt. I know this is going to be shocking.
It is a beautiful, beautiful car. That's like one of my ultimate dream cars.
The Arnage?
Yeah. No. The Continental T.
Oh, I know. It's amazing.
But I think you need to have your own mechanic because that's one that takes many, many hours.
But Hannah and you guys,
they get lucky. They're touched by God somehow. I mean, normal people can't.
But they drive around these vintage rollers like on the reg, and nothing happens, right? Like,
well, I'm not going to say nothing happens.
But nothing apocalyptic.
We take it in our stride. Nothing apocalyptic.
Yeah,
no.
you see, I feel like
the key is to drive it. Just keep driving it. Just keep driving it. That's the thing.
I hear that, and I tell people that Hannah says that. But then when I hear about other people who buy them, like there's a YouTuber, Hoovy's Garage, that guy bought one,
Yeah.
and Matt Farah bought one, and they all come with like $20,000 repair bills straight out of the gate,
Right.
And then apparently the way the motor's set up, it's just assuming labor is cheap,
Right.
Because it was then.
Well, I think the Lagonda actually would be. I was talking to this guy in Australia about it. I feel like it would be an amazing electrical conversion car. But he said, and then he went off on this rant about how great the V8 is. So I guess I could be wrong. But it's so cool. I think this is a Gen 2.
I
which
mean,
is
there's
not
only
so
one way to
pointy.
find out, Phil. Why don't you buy it, Phil, and then report back to us
Yeah, but
how it goes?
yeah, thanks.
And then we'll decide.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. That's a tempting offer. Listen, I never drive it anyway because I live in New York. Why don't you guys buy it? And then
Here's an idea. Why
Halvesies.
don't you buy it, but store it in LA? And then you
Oh.
can come to LA and we'll take care of it for you.
It's gonna be full of
You can
dog
come
hair.
to LA and drive it. Huh?
It's gonna be full of dog hair.
We'll keep her out.
That is not true, and you know it.
Yeah, that will never happen.
It's a 4-door, so Willow could sit in the back seat.
It's such a cool.
We'll put a
piece of
blanket
design.
down.
It's
the
the interior is so weird and cool, right?
They spent more money when they were developing the car on the dash than they did on the rest of the car. Like they spent.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah, because they spent zillions on that dash.
I have never driven a Lagonda, but I have to say it's memorably the most uncomfortable car I have ever sat in.
Really? Wait.
By far.
Why?
Yes. I mean, I've sat in a few like on golf courses and stuff.
What's
And
uncomfortable?
they're the position of the seat and the steering wheel and the dashboard. Have you
Because
found
I
that?
think you have to be like a frail octogenarian English gentleman,
Yes.
and then
Yeah,
with
I
no
think- I
feeling
don't have
in
the
any of your
body type.
limbs. If you've lost all feeling
Correct.
in your limbs, it's perfect for you.
I think, Matt, you would just feel like you're in a tin can.
Matt's still
If you
looking at
tried
the.
I'm
Hyundai.
trying to decide if I would rather have an Ioniq 6 or a Lagonda. And it comes down to color.
What?
The Ioniq 6, I think, looks really good in red for some reason.
Matt.
And
No, the gray, that battleship gray looks super cool. I saw one the other day on the street. I was like, okay, it's so weird. I don't know. I find it kind of audacious because they're really just not playing by everyone else's rules.
it's
Like,
for sure. They definitely, when they designed this Ioniq 6, I don't know what they were thinking. But it's nice.
I think it comes from a place of pessimism
It's nice to
about the
have.
state of the world.
Why? Well, that's crazy.
Because they've obviously given up. They've obviously just given up on beauty, and they're trying. And they don't care about beauty.
They've lost
And
the will
that
to
to me-
live?
Deep pessimism.
Oh, interesting.
I appreciate it when a car maker, especially a mass market manufacturer, does something that is clearly different than anything else.
See, this is what's happening. Matt is coming around to the Ioniq 6. You are hearing it live.
It's happening.
It's happening live.
It really
as we
is
speak.
happening.
He's coming around to it, and next thing you know, he's going to be texting an order by the end of the show.
I don't know because it's an electric car, so I'm really not interested.
Why?
Is it electric?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks.
I would also like, I'd also like a 2-door Range Rover for some reason.
I love a
But
two-door
from
Range Rover.
1989, and that
Yeah.
would never work.
I like any two-door SUVs. So like a
G-Wagon.
Jeep. Well, the G-Wagon's a little too short for me when it's a two-door form.
Pook.
Pook. Yeah, that's
Good.
right. The Austrian.
Pook.
Two-door G.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, I don't. I think that they're too short in two-door form, but I like, a Blazer or two-door Bronco.
You know what is too short? Is the new Land Rover Defender 2-door. Looks super weird. I think.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your show in France?
Yes.
Phil?
Please.
Completely devolve into two short cars. Now, this was an exhibition in conjunction with your book
Yes.
that you did. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, is there a place we can all see it in the US?
That's a good question. No, you're not yet. Okay, so I guess I've published 2 books this year, both of them with AI. And the thing that I find really interesting about AI is that the very existence of AI now means that everything is true and nothing is true simultaneously. So it's totally redefined our relationship with the image. And I've been working for a long time on this project about conspiracy theories in America. And I find it interesting that now history and facts are infinitely elastic.
Yeah.
Like we can just make up our own history, make up our own facts. We can, and the thing about AI is that now we have the technology to provide evidence for any lie that we can imagine.
But the book, what is the book?
Well, there's two books. The first book was called Another America, and that was basically a reimagined history of New York City in the 40s and 50s. And I worked with this incredible writer called John Kenny, who wrote these imagined histories to accompany these imagined historical images. But the second book, this is super like photo nerd level. There's a very famous war photographer called Robert Capa, and he's most famous. One of the things he's most famous for is on D-Day at Omaha Beach, he gets off the boat, he shoots a bunch of photographs, and so when you see D-Day images from Omaha Beach, they're always his. But the story went, he shot 4 rolls of film, sent that film back to England, they kind of buggered it up in the lab, so only 11 images from those rolls survived from D-Day. So I thought, this is interesting, he's created an empty pocket of history that I can fill with AI. I can reimagine a lost roll of Robert Capa's film. So I did that. So I made this, and the point of making this work is not really, I mean, Robert Capa's a vehicle, his story is a vehicle, but the point is to say, if I can reimagine history so convincingly, if I can imagine the past so emotionally, imagine what we can do with the present. Because when you look at those images that I've made with AI, they are really powerful, moving, emotional images, but none of it's real. Not a single pixel of that is real. Which is fascinating. Like you see these, a soldier holding a dead soldier in his arms and he looks heartbroken, and it's not real. None of that was ever real. And it's fascinating to me. And in the show in France, people would walk through the show and they'd be like, these are amazing war photographs. And at the end, they'd realize they were not real, that they'd been bamboozled. And that's the experience we're going to have going forward with imagery.
Yep.
We're going to see pictures all the time. And some of them will be convincing. A lot of them will be. And then we'll realize, oh, that was fake. So it's so
convincing and spur just massive emotional responses.
That's right.
That
Exactly.
you're normally used to only triggering by reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we live in the outrage economy. So everyone is a willing participant in that. And so what we have is we have this perfect storm of the outrage economy. We have the perfect dissemination system, which is the phone. We have the perfect content creation tool, which is AI. And so it's kind of interesting. Like I wonder what's, truth is sort of gone in a way.
The death of truth, Hannah.
Duh, duh, duh.
Phil, is that a work of deep pessimism to you about the future?
No, it's actually weirdly not. That's a good question. It's a work for me of observation. Like I find it very interesting that we are now in this kind of post-truth era. And I'm really curious to know, like, how is it going to work? Like, how will we talk to each other and find out what's real, what's not? Like, it's so interesting to me when I hear, I'm not going to devolve into politics. When I hear Trump talk about America, when I hear people on the right talk about America, they see a very different country from what I see. And it's just as real for them as the one I happen to live in. And I wonder if in some weird way we're going to go back to, like, how did people discuss current events in, let's say, the 17th century before the image? Like, how did that work? Is that what we're going to go back to? Maybe it won't matter.
Or something, completely different because...
Town hall.
Yeah, but maybe it won't matter. I mean, remember, I don't know if you guys remember the Y2K frenzy?
Of course.
Yeah, and like, the computers are going to come. And
it was pretty exciting, to be honest, and then it didn't happen.
It was a nothing burger.
Yeah.
And I wonder if truth will be a nothing burger. Like, people are like, okay, truth is, nothing's really real anymore, who cares? I wonder if that's how it's going to go.
I mean, I actually, in this job, not a cars podcast, but
Right.
financial markets news, we experience them so often, waiting for economic data points that we think are going to completely change the narrative and
Right.
shift the Fed's thinking, and then they turn out not to at all.
Right. It's kind of interesting, that.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if what this has to do with anything, but I was given a demonstration of the Apple Vision Pro thing. Have you guys tried that?
I haven't.
So
Have you, Hannah?
No.
So here's what was interesting to me. They let me watch a couple 15-minute movies. One was in a submarine set in World War II. And what was really amazing about it was that in the movies, like, the people are right up to your face. And it was really weirdly, like, emotionally uncomfortable. Because normally that kind of proximity is only like, your parent or a girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever happens to be, or babe. Like, people aren't normally that close, but it was a stranger, like, inches from my face. And I wonder, like, how that's all going to work with AI and that kind of technology. Like, I don't know why I started talking about that.
Oh, we really drifted away from cars here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all related. It's all related. I just think it's so fascinating to talk about these types of things. And it's also great to hear that perhaps you might have some optimism in your work, Phil.
You mean after
not
decades
all-
of depressing work?
Well, when you describe that it's a show and we're, about World War II, and, you would think, oh, wow, that's really heavy. But also the way that you talk about it and what the message is, and the reason why I asked about the pessimism thing is because I don't think you're actually completely pessimistic about it.
No, you're exactly right, Hannah. I'm just interested in showing people how powerfully they can be moved by a complete lie. Because I think that's and I mean, I know that sounds weird to say it's not pessimistic, but I just think it's interesting because that will be what we experience often going forwards.
Well, you also have to experience the bad as well as the good. We were just talking with somebody on the news desk about Phil's work confronting death and confronting age and obesity and homelessness and stuff.
Another very cheerful project.
Well,
and I think it was in the New York Times where they were interviewing your wife, and she was like, I was worried that Phil would be super depressed, but it actually changed him in a good way.
Well, so there was a documentary. That was a documentary that was on the New York done on the New York Times website. That project is called Maybe, and the premise. After my parents died quite suddenly, and I became really obsessed with this idea of how radically your life can change with a phone call. You have no idea what's around the corner. So I became obsessed with this. So then, as one would, as any normal person would,
yes,
I thought, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 3 years envisioning all the terrible ways my life is going to go, based on the conversations with fortune tellers and tarot card readers. And I worked with a prosthetics expert to become these future versions of my miserable self, and did that for 3 years. As anyone would. I mean, surely.
Of course. That's how I do it.
I mean, is that what you guys are up to right now?
I mean, I'm not actually bald. The makeup people do this for me.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I find, I guess a lot of my work is quite confrontational of the things I'm experiencing or the things I feel that the world is experiencing. I will say that often my work it's not been described as the most cheeriest of stuff, which is weird because I'm generally a pretty cheery person.
Well, I guess, you can draw a parallel back to cars and say, like, you wouldn't have so much appreciation for the M1 if you hadn't, like, bumped your head in the Mangusto, right?
That's true. It's
there
so
you
true.
Go.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it back. That was very deftly done, Matt.
Well,
that was skillfully. Look at this guy. He's a chef.
Total pro.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the things I wanted to talk about. So I grew up in Ohio, and
Same.
I live out in Westchester. And yes, I've lived in cities before, but I've never really liked it because I can't have cars and motorcycles here.
Right.
How does a car collector like you, and I guess Magnus and Hannah too, like, how do you adapt to city life and also, like, have cars? Because traffic sucks and parking is bad. And
Well, okay, so I will say, weirdly, I really enjoyed driving a lot of my cars in New York City. So when I had a lot more cars, like when I had the Lancia Delta or the Maserati, what was the name?
Shamal.
That's right, the Shamal.
Shamal.
Those, and then when I had a couple of other things, I would keep them in the city, and then I would take. I would just keep one of them in the city at a time, and then I would take my daughter to school in them, because I really enjoyed just using those cars for like a regular thing. And that's how actually I met a couple of people. Like, they'd be like, "What is that car?" And then we start talking. So you have to be super committed. Like, basically, I keep cars in some manky lockup in New Jersey. And then I have to drive to New Jersey and get the car, and then
I would want to kill myself.
No, I know,
dude.
and that's kind of what's killing my love for cars. Like, I feel like you guys in California, you've got it easy. Like, you can keep your cars where you live, you can get in the car, and then within like 15 minutes, you're on some genius road. Whereas after an hour's drive, I'm just stuck behind a minivan, and I'm being radar gunned. You know what I mean? It's a different experience.
Just getting a
different
ticket
experience
on the Taconic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much better for you, right, Hannah?
It's just different. I think that you can live in New York City and still experience cars in a really full way. You just have to. It just takes a little bit more focus, and it is harder, but it's not impossible. I mean, you do it. It's harder. But
Yeah.
also, California isn't like some Shangri-La. We also have problems here car-wise.
No, it's
It's
Shangri-La.
probably
Shangri-La.
easier, but
No, because Hannah
it's
doesn't.
just I think it's just different.
You don't commute to work on the Angeles Crest, right?
No, I commute to work on Sunset Boulevard, which is also cool, actually, by the
Yeah,
way.
but your
I
road,
avoid-
your roads are made of velvet. Like the roads in the
Like
and
yeah.
they're like it's like the moon here.
Not all the roads. Not all the roads. We have our own, traffic here is horrible. There are many things that are also difficult. I
Right.
think it's just it's different. It's a horse of a different color, but it's still a horse.
Why do you have to be all sensible like that, Hannah?
She's so money and she doesn't even know.
I know, it's true.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me,
It's
guys.
been a lot of fun. I've learned so much.
100 what was it? 217?
217.
I can't
217.
believe I remembered
baby.
that. Thank you, honestly, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was
Good.
such a good laugh.
Cool. All right. Well, that does it for this week's edition of Hot Pursuit. You can shoot us an email at hotpursuit@bloomberg.net. And
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. And we do respond.
yes, like we did with Dan. I'm Matt Miller.
I'm Phillip Toledano.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Bloomberg.